Okay, today we are going to be looking at the question, how does a magnifying glass make text larger? Before we start, let's define a few words. Convex. A magnifying glass is made out of a convex lens, meaning it's curved outward. Light refraction. Change in direction of a light wave. When the magnifying glass goes through, it changes the direction of a light wave. We'll get more into this later. In other words, bending of a light ray. Before we introduce the magnifying glass into the equation, let's look at how our eyes perceive images. When we look at an object, it is the rays of light that determine how we see the object. Here we have two eyes and two birthday candles at different distances away from the eye, but they are the same exact size. When it's closer to the eye, the angle of the light is larger, which makes the object appear larger. And in this one, it's farther away, which makes the angle of the light smaller, making us see the birthday candle smaller. Now we have introduced the convex lens. Here is the birthday candle and the eye, and now when the light is going towards the eye, it is refracted, or as we can recall, the light is bent to converge into the eye, making a larger angle. The dotted line shows where the light is now refracting from your eye, which would now make the candle appear to be this big instead. The magnifying glass allows our eyes and our brain to create a virtual image that is not actually there. We didn't change the distance between our eye and the paper. We just added the convex lens or the magnifying glass, which makes the text appear larger. The science behind magnifying glass relates to a lot of things. Today we talked about convex lenses and light refraction, but we could also have talked about principles of geometry and parallel lines. We talked briefly about how the eye works. There's much more details than what we talked about, and how a virtual image is created when you put a magnifying glass in front of something. I think what's most important about the magnifying glass is all the modern technology that has come since then, such as telescopes that allow us to look at the stars, microscopes that allow us to look at bacteria and really, really small things, and eyeglasses that people wear every day.
So now that we've had a bigger look on how magnifying glasses work, we're going to be experimenting with them. But of course, not everyone has magnifying glasses at home, so for today's experiment, we're going to be using household items. And for this experiment in particular, we're going to be using a mason jar, or in this case, a glass mason jar. Any cup would work if it's glass, as long as it has this round figure or this round shape on the bottom. We'll be using that later. We'll also need a container full of water. I used another cup, but you can make sure you use whatever you have on you. And we're going to be using a dropper. And again, you don't need to have a dropper, but you do want to have something that you'll be able to pick up the water with and put on top of that rounded figure we talked about. Lastly, you'll want to have something to look under your new magical magnifying glass to look under with. So we're going to be using a dime. We'll also be using maybe a letter or two just to get a bigger picture on how magnifying glasses work, or our household magnifying glass. All right, so let's get started with the activity. Okay, so before we begin, we want to make sure that our area that we're working in is definitely clean, making sure that we have nothing there. Obviously, as you can tell in the bottom, there's a spill already that I had previously made, but that's all right. So let's begin. So the first thing you want to do is grab the first object you're going to be looking at with your new magnifying glass. So the first object I'll be using is a dime. Now, you'll want to go ahead and take your mason jar, or mason jar for me, cup for others, and just go ahead and place it on the top. Right now, as you can see, there's residue from water that I had used previously. But in this case, now we're going to switch up. So as you can see, on the top, Not sure if you can clearly see, but on the top, it's the same size that I just had put it on. So nothing's changed so far. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take our a cup full of water, sorry. We're going to want to go ahead and use our dropper, fill it all the way up, bring it over to the mason jar, or the cup, in whichever one you have. Place the water on the top until all that curved surface that I talked about before is full. This surface is going to replicate the magnifying glass to make sure that it enhances the image, or in this case, it magnifies the image so we see it bigger. Oop, there I go again when spilling it. Okay, that looks like it's enough. So again, as before, the object was the same size, but now if we look on the top, it has significantly increased. And now we can see more of the details that normally wouldn't have been seen if you would have seen it from the same angle before. And just like that, we want to make sure that after we complete our activity, we put everything away. So I no longer have my surface. I put away all the stuff that I was using, making sure that nothing was left behind. Of course, I still have my lucky dime, but now our experiment has concluded. And again, as we learned before, this was just to take a better look on how magnifying glasses work, or how to replicate the magnification at home. Obviously, it was not going to work like a professional magnifying glass because it's just not a magnifying glass. But that's alright. We took a better look at how it works at home, and now we have discovered it for ourselves. Thank you for watching our video.